Hey everybody, welcome back to Gavin's Inner Thoughts. Um, I would like to first apologize for not being as consistent as I was with this radio show. Um, Life gets in the way, so please bear with me on that. But yeah, another episode about kind of nothing, but as the title would say, I called it Coffee and Cigarettes. Um, and it's not really necessarily that we're going to talk about coffee and cigarettes, but I will talk about coffee and cigarettes. I'm just using that overall broad terminology of coffee and cigarettes. It's like when somebody's like, "Oh, going on a smoke break." Even if they don't smoke, they just kind of go outside and get some fresh air, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So this is me opening the door and getting in some fresh air from my life. Um, so let's see what's going on. Um, I went and saw I went and saw a concert a little bit ago. I went with my really good friend Nick. We went down to the Pier 6 Pavilion and we got to see the bands Lorna Shore, Gojira, and Mastodon. Now, Mastodon has been a band that I have been in love with since I was in like ninth grade. When they, excuse me, when they released, I want to say it's the Blood Mountain album, the one with Colony of Birchmen and Sleeping Giant. Um, that one kind of caught my attention. But then it was like when I got into like their Leviathan albums with like Blood and Thunder and Sea Beast, like that kind of was like, oh shit, like these guys are really cool. And then I went a little bit back and I listened to Remission album, and things like March of the Fire Ants, which I think might be on Leviathan, or am I wrong? I could be wrong. I'm kind of doing this off of memory. Um, but anyway, the point of the story is the songs that I'm kind of listing are the ones that I've never really seen them play live. So it was really cool to watch them play these kind of older, sludgier, more hard rock, heavy metal sounds than their progressive kind of sound that they are kind of known for today. Um, so it was really cool seeing them kind of play all over the place with like their older stuff and their newest stuff. Like it's always a good time seeing Mastodon. I've seen them about like 8 or 9 times now, and every single time has been great. This was my very first time seeing Gojira, and I was so pumped because for those of you who know who Gojira is, oh shit, oh yawn. Excuse me. For those of you who know who Gojira is, they are basically the French version of Mastodon. They kind of have like some progressive, proggy kind of hard rock, heavy metal stuff, but at the same time, they also have a lot of kind of like groovy, like tech death, almost thrash kind of feel to it. I like to kind of say they have a progressive sound like Tool and Mastodon and Dream Theater and stuff like that, but they're not really like math rocky. If that makes sense for the listeners who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, I'm not going to sit here and explain music. That'll be another episode. Um, but they one of the things I really liked about them was they were a death metal band that sung about the trees. You know, they were the ones that like they were the death metal band for the Lorax. They were about save the planet. They were about save the whales, save the make everything nice, be better for the environment, do all that, right? Um, and I thought that that was really cool because they have like these banging ass riffs, dude. Like some of their songs are like heavy as fuck, and you're just like, whoa. And then you look at the lyrics, and they're saying things like plastic bags in the sea, and you're just like, okay, I can get behind this, I guess. So I really was looking forward to seeing Gojira live. I really wanted to see them. And when my buddy had the tickets for it, like I was all for it. And honestly, they put on one hell of a show, and I would love to see them again. And if you ever get a chance to see Gojira live, even if you're not a big heavy metal hard rock person, the energy and just the fun that they put on for their show was just phenomenal, dude. Like I promise you, you will have a fucking wonderful time. Now, how do I put this? There was an opening band called Lorna Shore. For those of you who aren't familiar with Lorna Shore, I'm not even 100% sure who they were. I was kind of under the influence that they were a like a deathcore esque type band. I knew that they were, they had a kind of like I don't want to say thrash, but at the same time it was like a power metal vibe. I don't know, like the way that like their instruments are. It's like they have a lot of like power metal, Dragon Force kind of influence, but then at the same time they kind of break into like some like deathcore kind of stuff, and like breakdowns, and it musically it works. Now the thing that I have a little bit of an issue with. Now, I will say I'm going to state what I have my issue with, and then I will say how they redeem themselves. Prior to ever hearing of Lorna Shore or anything like that, I was sent one song from them. And I was told if you can listen to this without chuckling or laughing or rolling your eyes, then give them a shot. And they have a song called Into the Hellfire. And there is a part in that song that the only way I can really explain it is if a demon was cornholing a pig while disemboweling that pig at the same time. Yep, that's all I got for you. Now, his vocal style is very impressive live. But when I heard this song, it was like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? Seriously, is this what we're doing? So I kind of laughed at it and I kind of chuckled at it. And I really was not, I didn't have huge expectations for Lorna Shore. I was like, their songs are going to probably bleed together. And I am going to hang out at the merch stand the entire time. But after seeing them live, they have a song called Pain Remains. And Pain Remains is a three-parter song, but it's one of those songs that his vocal style kind of fits the melody with it, and they use that as their closer song. And the way that it all kind of like blended together, I was like, okay, if they're doing stuff like this, I can get behind this. I mean, it's not really my bag, but I can at least get behind it. I can understand what's going on. But if they're gonna keep doing this like Hellfire shit, pass, you know. So, other than that, like it was a pretty good show. I had a lot of fun. But that's like a thing is like when it comes time for concerts, I can't just go to like festivals and stuff like that anymore. Like I'm too old to get in pits. I'm too old to fuck around and do all this like the jump arounds and the mosh pits and the like wearing the fucking biker boots and shit like that. Like I'm showing up to concerts now and fucking excuse me, Under Armour shoes, maybe some jeans, maybe shorts, depending on what the weather's like, and a fucking t-shirt, maybe a hoodie. I'm going to concerts for comfort and just to watch bands. You know, my going to like the Mayhem festivals and the Summer Slaughter tours and like the Maryland Death Fests, like I'm done with that. Like I can't I cannot get back into that scene. As much as like I still listen to those music, like don't get me wrong, I still to this day listen to some Cannibal Corpse and some Dying Fetus and some Infant Annihilators and stuff like that. But at the same time, like my music taste is kind of all over the place. Um, so I can't really sit here and be like, oh yeah, like I'm not gonna gatekeep the whole like metal thing, and that's like go fuck yourself if you're a gatekeeper. If you're one of those people that listens to Five Finger Death Punch, go for it. It's not my thing. I don't really like the band, but if that's your intro to heavy music, keep doing it, dude. Like I am trying my hardest to get out of that whole like high school Gavin of like, oh, you listen to that band? Oh, that's not cool. Like, whatever, fuck off, Like, I was happy as shit when my girlfriend was like, oh, I started getting into Ghost. And my whole thing was like, well, fuck yeah, finally. Because, yeah, I might not have stuff that's like close to Ghost that I listen to, but at least I can, like, understand some of the stuff that she that like talks about when she's like, "Oh, I heard X song from Ghost," because I'm not the biggest fan of Ghost, but I'll listen to them. I don't mind them. They're just hard rock ABBA. So if you like ABBA and you like dope guitar riffs, you might like Ghost. Um, but like that was like kind of the thing was, she was like, "Oh, I really like that. What the fuck was that song? Mary on a Cross song." And I had never heard that song until she had showed it to me, because when I kind of was listening to Ghost, it was during the like the Elizabeth Bathory kind of like vibe, where they were kind of like playing Sabbath riffs and like Blue Oyster Cult kind of uh, layouts and chord designs. But yeah, I'm gonna take a drink of this water real quick because I'm getting dry mouth. But with Ghost, they, at least they were funny. It was like this dude's dressed up like a dead priest, and they have like demonic nuns that go to their shows and stuff like that. Like, so it just seems like they're there for like a fun time and stuff like that. Um, so when my girlfriend was like, "Yeah, I really like Ghost," I was like, "Okay, well, if you like Ghost, maybe you like this band. Maybe you like this band." So it's like we have some sort of like middle ground. I mean, not saying that we don't have like a middle ground with some interests and everything like that now, but a lot of our interests are kind of like, full left or full right. It's not really a balanced scheme. So when it comes to shows, movies, and music and things like that, and we find common interests, it's kind of fun. Um, so when she was getting into Ghost, I was like, hey, why don't you try Corn? You know, um, and she got into them. And then like prior to like when we were really starting to date, we were talking about how we would play. What the fuck was that? Tony Hawk's Underground and stuff like that, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And because honestly, that's where I got a lot of my music taste from. When Tony Hawk came out, and we had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 for the PlayStation 1 or whatever it was, um, like fucking Jerry was a race car driver. Um, what was that Rancid song that was on there? If I remember, I believe um, Fugazi's Waiting Room is on one of them, but I don't think it was that one because that one was early. Fugazi didn't come out until later 2000s. Um, I can't remember like all of them, but like some of them blend together. Like I remember Tony Hawk's Underground, or no, which one was the one? I don't remember. The one that had like the High on Fire song, and it had Mastodon's Crusher Destroyer. Like all of these like kind of like harder kind of punk songs or like punk metal esque songs like War and stuff. Um, that kind of developed my music taste in my later years. You know, in the early years, we all kind of steal from our parents, you know, or like we kind of find our own little things from friends and everything. But unfortunately for me, my friends kind of listened to lame music when I was younger. Like they all had like shit when we were younger. There was shit. What was it? The now that's what I call music. It was like volume one. Okay, and then they used to have. There was another one that was like the now that's what I call hits, but it was the like summer of '01 greatest hits, like top 20 or something like that. And that was like the CDs and shit like that that my cousins had. Like they had I remember to this date my cousin Ryan had a CD that had Baha Men's Who Let the Dogs Out, and it was just like, yeah, like I can't get behind that kind of music, especially when I was younger. I really enjoyed music. My mom liked to sing to me. My mom liked to do a lot of things like that. Like listen to music and sing and just kind of have music playing as a white noise while she was making dinner or cleaning the house, and I was just kind of like around. Um, but because my mom had me kind of younger, um, her music choice was kind of like as a younger person. But she was into weird like 80s pop synth music or underground industrial metal. That was like what my mom really enjoyed. For an example, she kind of liked Cyndi Lauper. She loved Wham. Like that was like the biggest thing. Like I still know George Michael and Andrew John Ridgely. Those are the two guys from Wham. All right, so you have like Wham, but she also liked Nine Inch Nails, White Zombie, Rob Zombie, whichever one. She had. I remember she had that Tool album with the fucking eyeballs on it. You know, the 10,000 Days shit. But you know that was so it was like kind of funny where I'm like looking through her music and she has like these kind of 80s, you know, take on me type stuff, but at the same time like, you know, Head Like a Hole is on the next fucking CD, you know. It was cool having that growing up. You know, like the fact that I can tell you every song on Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails is crazy. Um so when it was coming time to like kind of develop music or like a music taste coming from my mom's like CDs that she had, not to mention she had like crazy death metal and thrash metal stuff from my biological father. I remember she had the Sepultura album Chaos AD. I remember she had Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera. She had Hell Awaits by Slayer, and there was the first Slipknot album with Spit It Out and not Spit It Out, Wait and Bleed, whatever that album was. But like it was kind of cool because it was like, you know, she had those things, but then at the same time, like I would go over my cousin Ryan's house and her or his mom, she would always have like her hard rock was like Creed, you know. Now, granted, let me just kind of run it back for Creed really quick. Creed, they got some riffs. Have you ever heard the song called "What If" by Creed? That riff goes hard for no reason. For no reason. Like Creed just has some fucking pretty good like jams. And it is one of those bands where it's like, you know, like Nickelback and you know, the like I can't think of any of them right now, but like it's one of those bands where it's like, "Oh, you listen to them, you must be lame," right? Well, kind of going back, you know, making my own decisions and choices now. Again, go fuck yourself if you're a gatekeeper. Mark Tremoli, I think that's how you say his name. Tremoli. I don't know. That guy, the guitar player, he can lay down some fucking riffs. I'm not gonna lie. And how often have you just been sitting alone and fucking hello my friend we meet again, like just rolls in your head and you're like, what? Where the fuck did that come from? It's because Creed. Okay, that's why. Um, but yeah, so going past that's when I kind of got into like the whole Tony Hawk's games and everything like that, and then the Tony Hawk games kind of pushed me into my own music choice. Like I kind of got into a little bit of everything, and honestly, if it wasn't for Tony Hawk, like they really did have everything on there. They had like punk, they had ska, they had metal, they had underground hip hop. Like that was the first time I ever heard of the motherfucker named MF Doom, right? Like that was the first time I had heard like those 90s skate hip hop beats, if that makes sense. Um Kind of like Tribe Called Quest stuff, where it's like funky, but it's like laid back too. Like I don't know, just something about it was just really fucking cool. Um, like, but yeah, like you know, you get into skateboarding, and then you get into drinking coffee, and then the next thing you know, you're smoking cigarettes. So in your 3 o'clock break. Um, well, that's just me. But yeah, speaking of like coffee, do you guys like coffee? Let me know. Let me know if you actually like coffee because I am kind of picky when it comes to coffee. I used to just be like, oh, whatever, coffee, coffee, coffee. But then I realized coffee has differences, and um, there's like a whole thing. Um, like what is it? It's like light roast, medium roast, dark roast, Colombian blend. Like there's all this like shit for coffee, right? I might be wrong on some of these, but um, when I was kind of like just drinking coffee just to drink coffee, it was like whatever, right? You know, I was just doing just to get the little caffeine high. You know what I mean? Um, but then when I started to like drink coffee and smoke cigarettes with them, um, I never could find like the perfect blend. You know what I mean? Like there was this movie in the early 2000s, was like a documentary, and it was called Thank You for Smoking. And all it was, or maybe it was called Coffee and Cigarettes or something like that. I think I might be getting this confused with Thank You for Smoking and Coffee and Cigarettes. It's two separate things. But anyway, the point is, it was this black and white documentary where it was a bunch of like famous people, and they were literally just smoking cigarettes, having coffee, and just talking. And I I have no clue why I watched that. I have no clue how I got a hold of it. Mm. But but I did, and I watched it, and it was cool. Now, fast forward a little bit, when I kind of got in my depressed state of mind, and I started to get into coffee and cigarettes. Um, Coffee and cigarettes became kind of a staple for me, and it still is. Every morning I at least have coffee and one or two cigarettes in the morning. Throughout the day, whatever happens, happens, but in the morning, that's kind of like my thing. Eventually when I start to have kids, I will probably cut that habit back or at least like hide it pretty well. Um, but yeah, going back to that documentary, I just remember like they were always like, "Oh yeah, this is a good blend," and like the smoke, and it'd be like, "Oh, I remember working with Stanley Kubrick, right?" And there was like this whole thing about like the aesthetic and the atmosphere of like these guys just smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and telling stories, and I thought that was like really cool for some reason. I have no clue. I don't know why I'm dwelling on it. Um, but then when I started to like smoke and drink coffee, somebody explained it to me because I was trying to go to I went to like a hipster coffee house in Virginia, and I was visiting my parents. I was leaving, and I went to some like hole in the wall coffee shop place while I was leaving, and the guy who was explaining it to me, he was like, "Your coffee is like your cigarettes. Depending on what you smoke, is what you should drink." And I was like, "Can you explain that?" And he said, "Well, or if you're smoking like Marlboro Reds, you might want to go towards like medium to dark roast because it's like a fuller flavor. Oh, excuse me. It's like robust." And then he was like, "If you smoke like light cigarettes, you might want to go towards like the lighter side because it's like it's still got the taste, but it's not as bold. It's not going to be as bitter. You know, you're able to decorate it and sweeten it up. And you know, if you're smoking like menthols, 10 to 1, you probably drink your coffee black because of the menthol flavor and stuff like that." So I started to kind of like really look into that kind of stuff, and I was like, okay, well, I smoke like kind of light cigarettes. So I started with like a light roast, and I noticed that all the light roasts always had some bullshit in it. You know, like they were like, "Oh, here's a light roast with like orange peels," and I was like, "I don't fucking want orange in my goddamn coffee. I just want my fucking coffee. Why are we playing this game?" And like the more I was getting in the light roast, the more I was realizing like they were doing like too much with the light roast. Like there was all these fucking flavors, there was all this bullshit, and I was like, no, 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 no. I want coffee. Like if I want to make it taste different, that's what the cream and sugar and shit like that's for, and the flavorings. Like I don't, I want my coffee to be a coffee. So I started to like try to drink coffee black for a little bit because there was this place in Baltimore called Yaya's, and they had a really good black coffee. Like whatever their blend was, the lady gave it to me black, and I went to I was gonna go put some cream and sugar in it, and it was a little too full, so I took this little sip out of it, and I after I took that first sip, I was like, oh, well, this is actually pretty fucking good. Like this doesn't need anything. So I started kind of getting their coffees for a little bit, and that shit was baller. Like my girlfriend and I, we would go there almost every fucking Saturday in the morning, and we just get like really fucking good coffee. Um, so I tried to find like that kind of a blend, and so I asked them where they got theirs from, and they told me the website. And I remember looking up the website, and it was, um, I think it was like a California blend or a California uh company, and they haven't fully made themselves across, you know, the Midwest yet. So they're kind of still in like the I think they're in like California, Washington, and I think in Nevada. I could be wrong, but they're a very small kind of startup coffee shop. But anyway, so I started to like look at like, well, if you like X, maybe you should try Y. So I started to look up like other ones and stuff like that, and I realized I um like a holiday blend or a like a rich medium Columbia roast. Um, I don't know. That's really all I know. I don't know too much about it. I never really went into like the whole like like hipsters get into like fucking draft beer and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, I can taste like the parsley inside of the fucking barrel. Like I don't know. Uh my taste buds are all sorts of fucked up from smoking cigarettes and like licking doorknobs and shit like that when I was a kid. So like I don't care. I like my coffee because it kind of gives me that stimulant, and I feel like I kind of uh, developed a reliance on caffeine. but I don't give a shit at this point. Like I don't care. I just really like the way that it makes me feel too. It gives me this like, okay, the world might be shit, but it's a little less shit now that I got coffee in me. It's my little thing. So like, the one guy who's fucking shooting up heroin because that's his thing, you go yell at him. Don't tell me that like, oh, this caffeine's gonna fuck you up, or this caffeine's gonna do this, or these cigarettes are gonna cause this, or these cigarettes. Like, let me have me. Okay, I know what's wrong. I know these are bad, but I'm not asking for your input, nor do I care. Like, I understand you have my health and well-being in your state of mind, but don't, please, just let me do me. Okay? If you see me chain smoking in a car with 4 children in the back seat with the windows rolled up, absolutely fucking say something. But I never do that because when it comes to children and cigarettes, I try to smoke away from them. Like, even my best friend who has 4 kids, fuck, I always forget about the fucking, Jesus Christ, he's got 4 kids. Like, one of my really best friends, like, he's a really good friend of mine, and he's always, like, been super there for me whenever I fucking needed it. So, whenever I go over his house and I'm, like, stressed out and we go outside to, like, talk and I smoke a cigarette, like, I always try to walk away from his house or walk under the porch or kind of walk out in the yard so that I'm far away from, like, his house, his kids, like him, so he doesn't smell like it and stuff like that, because I don't, I understand that I have a shitty habit, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be a dickhead and just fucking, portray it on everybody. I have human compassion, you dumb prick. So how about when you see me smoking or vaping or drinking or anything like that, I'm letting you all know right now that I'm not causing any harm. I am not the next Hitler because I took a drag of a fucking cigarette. So take your opinions, take your thoughts, shove them right up your little pink asshole, and move on. And if you don't like it, and you don't like anything that I just said, and you're really thinking about it, stop fucking thinking about it. Let it go. There you go. It's done. It's done. But actually, to kind of say on the cigarette part, speaking of hipsters, I fucking love American Spirits. I do. I don't know why. It's something about them. Like, they just taste like a good cigarette. Like, after smoking American Spirits, especially like the lighter blends, I usually try to stay with like the yellows, the golds, the skies, the occasional light blues if that's all they have. But that's really like where I kind of stay with my cigarette choice from them. I have had their black pack. I've had the menthol pack. What was the turquoise? I think it was like the super dark blue or whatever the fuck it is. I don't fucking know. I'm colorblind. But that those were like kind of rough, and then it was like, but they still had like a good flavor. They were just a little like too much. But then like the lighter ones, I was like, okay, I kind of like these. Like the sky ones with like the charcoal filters, not bad, not bad. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like a Marlboro Light or like a Pall Mall Red or yellow or blue or whatever the fuck they are, or the Maverick Golds, like they just taste rough. You know what I mean? Like, they just have this roughness with them. It just is like, oh, when you smoke it. You immediately kind of gag a little bit. You like, take a drag and you're like, oh, So, with that being said, I've never had that problem with American Spirits. I'll smoke American Spirits all the time, and then, like, if somebody's like, oh, like if I'm like, oh, I need to get a cigarette, and somebody's like, oh, here, take one of mine. If they don't have an American spirit, I will legitimately be that fucking prick and be like, no. um, I just, I don't know. I like what I like. My mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, they all used to have this saying. I just stuttered so fucking hard there. They all used to have this saying where it is, you have a champagne taste on a beer budget. And I never realized what that meant until I started like smoking. So I'm going to revise that statement and say that I have an American spirit taste on a Pall Mall budget. So, um, anyway, I hope that you guys have been having a good time, having a blast. I hope you enjoyed this listen. Um, my stomach's starting to hurt, so I'm gonna end it here, and I'm probably gonna go take a shit, and then I'm gonna go take my dog for a walk. So, love you guys. Hope everything is well, and yeah, feel free to follow me, comment, like, subscribe, do whatever the hell you want to do. Yeah. So, be easy, y'all. I'll be talking at you.